I believe that puts us in the category of live.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this week's edition of the Weekly Roundtable. I'm your co-host and co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation, Frank Johnson, also professional sumo wrestler. To my right is Michael Marshall, co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation and constitutional scholar. And joining us, as always, the dragon of the Southern Tier, New York's only true independent journalist, Michael Vasquez.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? By the way, before there's breaking news that you probably have not heard about that I want to cover. It's just hitting some of the press. You will not find it on the mainstream at this moment. I'm pretty sure the mainstream doesn't want to tell anyone about this. We found out. We go ahead.
Is there something to do about something being filmed in a Senate subcommittee room?
That's right. We found out how we now have proof of how hard Senate Democrats are how hard they are and how hard they're working for the United States people. The news that's just coming out, it's just, and literally you can't find it on the mainstream. None of the left-leaning news media will cover this. But there seems to be visual tape, gay sex in the Senate. A gay sex tape recorded in the United States Senate, paid for by United States citizens. You paid for a gay sex studio. Yeah. These are your tax dollars at work. This is what the Senate Democrats are busy working on. This is what they are hard at work on. This is what they are doing for us, is taking your tax dollars so they can make gay porn. This is, look, I don't care. This is, it is rumored, it is said that this is a staffer working for Maryland 3rd District Democrat Ben Cardin, that this is one of his staffers. Now, that may be true. We're not sure. We do know that whomever it is, the gentleman on the desk there, does look directly into the camera. So his face is recognizable. He is identifiable. And maybe he's a staffer, maybe not. I don't care that he's gay. I don't care that he has gay porn that he makes for, I don't know. The staffers make about $100,000 a year. So I can understand how he's in such poverty because of Bidenomics and the interest that inflation that we have been living under since Joe Biden took over and his policies impacted America and the world. But the thing that upsets me about this, it's not that he's gay. It's not that he's making gay porn, that he's making money or doing it for fun. I don't care about any of that. I don't care that he's necessarily working for Ben Cardin or any other Democrat or Republican for that matter. That's not the important thing. They're doing this instead of doing their job. They're doing this in a place that's paid for by your taxes, by my taxes, that they have disgraced the United States government, all of it, that they have disgraced the United States people, that they have so little respect that they would do this and apparently had no problem, wasn't concerned. I mean, it's not even like, ooh, we're doing this on the side. We're being slick about this. You're looking into the camera so everyone can know it's you. He had no concern. He had no care. Didn't care who saw this. He had to know this was going to get out. He had to know someone was going to identify him. Had no care, no concern. Doesn't care about the people in Maryland. Doesn't care about the United States. Doesn't care about our reputation, our honor, his boss. This is the status that we have now come to. And the reason why the mainstream media, I am sure, will not want to tell this to the American people is because now we have to have a conversation about a protected group. He's gay. We can't talk about gay people and say they did something bad. Yes, I can. This is bad for any workplace,
Mhm.
but this is the United States Senate. It's even more inappropriate. It is even more wrong. It is, I believe, a crime, and it is also immoral. Not because he's gay, but because of what he did and where he did it. And the mainstream media is going to kill this story. It's going to die
You know they will.
fast.
This
You
is
know
the
they
worst thing that's happened since January 6th.
Yeah. Am I missing something in this, guys? I mean,
No. What is all right? Here's the thing. For since January 6th, we've heard everybody talk about the sanctity of Capitol Hill, and it's supposed to be held on high as if it's the Vatican, because this is the place where the people do their business, and it's the foundation of American government and democracy. And this is a place that's supposed to be revered, and you have little old ladies 80 years old going to jail because they walked through Capitol Hill Rotunda with an American flag, and taking pictures and stuff like that. And these guys are over there doing this now. Where the hell is security? Because obviously, look, you see C-SPAN, you have Congress is conducting business till all hours of the night. Sometimes you have things going on there all hours of the day, all hours of the night. There's always somebody. There's always some hearing, something somewhere, something's going on. Where is
they're
security?
supposed to be working on our budget. They're supposed to be working on the funding.
Listen. I don't care about what they were supposed to work on. You know why? Because if they're not working, then that costs me money. Friggin', I don't. If they're not getting anything done, I'm actually happy about that. Well,
Eh,
I'm concerned about the fact that you have people going around in this building doing this kind of thing, and they're. If this is supposed to be such a prestigious location, where the finest of Americans come together to work out our issues and create a prosperous environment for this and future generations, where is security?
probably
How
involved. Who you
guys
think was
are
holding the camera?
well are there no cameras? Because we've got
Of course there are.
how many hours of video was released from January 6th?
Over
Which one of them
40,000.
was
Well, they
40,000.
released 6,000. There's 40,000 hours of video.
All right, 40,000 hours available. The entire thing, the whole event on January 16th was done and over in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 hours, it was over and done with. That means 40,000 divided by 2 hours, 40,000 hours worth of camera means there's 20,000 cameras in that building.
Roughly.
At least.
These people think that they can do this in an area where there's 20,000 some odd cameras in some of the most protected office space on the face of the planet. And this happening in the same year that people are leaving cocaine in the White House, and nobody can seem to tell us who it was, even though the Secret Service admitted that they have DNA evidence from it, but they can't seem to get a match for it anywhere. What is happening on Capitol Hill? What is happening on Capitol Hill that you can charge January 6th individuals with all kinds of crimes, keep them locked up without representation, without expeditious trials, in heinous conditions in one of the worst places that they can in Maryland, where these people are locked up,
Mhm.
and in the same toll, have this kind of stuff happening with impunity, that you can just say, listen, if you were working at Capitol Hill and you wanted to have a fling with somebody's secretary or something like that, I really don't think you would be looking for the broom closet. You'd be looking for someplace off-site to go do what you were going to do, because you don't want nobody knowing what's going on. What
You
is
think
it?
they'd use the government credit card to rent a motel? I mean, like the United States government's going to care about $300
Right,
for
but
overnight.
the thing is, you take your debauchery elsewhere.
Mhm.
You don't conduct your debauchery on the floor of the Senate, or in one of their testimony rooms. You leave. You go to. What is it that makes these people think that they are so entitled to and above the rules that they themselves, after going through 3 years of listening to January 6th bullshit, come out and say, you know what? Let's go rump riding in the Senate conference room over there. Get it on camera and put all the lights on in the room and not even have to worry about the risk of somebody walking in on them.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, the fact that this happened and the fact that immediately the thing is suppress it should be appalling to everyone here in the United States. Number one. Number two, okay, like I said, I don't give a shit that he's gay. Okay, whatever floats his boat, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
but not in a Senate hearing room. Okay, he wants to do that at his house. He wants to do it at some club that participates in that type of stuff. Go for it. Have a blast. Okay, but not on Capitol Hill. Hell, if you want to do it on Capitol Hill, go to the damn bathroom and do it.
I mean, if anything, if anywhere, have some kind of respect, but there is no respect. And here's the thing that I think is going to be very telling. See, he is part of a protected group. Remember, they're so worried LGBT, the most oppressed people on the face of the earth, except for trans people or Palestinians. Apparently, they're the most oppressed, of course, in the world. But I guarantee, well, I can't guarantee, but I am very sure you're going to hear Ben Cardin come out, and his first statements will be trying to excuse this action. That they're going to try, he's going to protect this man because he's protected. He's in a protected group. And the left can't say something negative about this. This is why right now at CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, they're trying to figure a way to spin this. They're trying to they want to spin this because you have to be transphobic or against gays. You have to hate gays and lesbians somehow, in some way, to say this was inappropriate. This is both potentially a crime and also immoral. That's what they're trying to do. That's why the news media hasn't come out with this, because they haven't figured out how to word this to blame MAGA and say, well, you're a phobe of some sort because you're the bad guy. How dare you be upset that this is happening using your tax dollars? And to refute something you mentioned earlier, Frank, they're getting paid because he's on the Senate. He's a Senate staffer using his credentials, I assume, for the room. The moment the lights go on, that room starts ticking tax dollars. The moment the lights go on, the moment his ID card said, let me in, the tax bill started running. Yeah. And the tax bill for those rooms, I could buy a house for an hour it takes to run one of those rooms the way our taxes go. This is, it's ridiculous. It's insulting. And they're going to excuse this. And then they're going to bury it. And that's even worse. They're going to suppress this.
If they don't bury it, they are going to try to use it as a means to push their agenda. And they will want to make this an acceptable. Okay. And if you aren't accepting of it, then you are anti-gay, you're anti-LGBTQIA plus. And the thing is a majority of conservatives today honestly do not give a shit what people do. Okay? They have their beliefs, they might have their religious beliefs and whatnot. And as a result, they won't participate in that type of stuff. But for the most part, they don't care. Okay, because it's, I don't even know how to
Well, it's
really
because
say it.
we aren't. They have monolithically. The news media has monolithically portrayed everyone who is conservative, everyone who's a Republican or on the right. You are either frozen in time in 1950, or you're frozen in time in 1939 Germany. That's it. Those are your two choices. You're on the
Yeah.
right. You're right of the progressive movement. Then you must be either a 1950s white male or you're a 1939 German. That's it. Those are the two choices we get. That's not the reality, of course, but that's how they paint us, and that's how they paint everything about any view that's against them. You have to
And the
be
funny
this
thing
phobe.
is we are seeing dramatic increases of gay and lesbian conservatives. We're seeing dramatic increases of Black conservatives. We're seeing dramatic increases of Latino and Latina conservatives. I mean, across the board, we are seeing increases across pretty much every demographic
And we
of
should.
conservatives. We're seeing a lot of people that are realizing that what the narratives that are being pushed by the liberals, number one, are not true. Number two, they're unsustainable. This give everybody free money and etc. is unsustainable. I mean, I was just doing a little bit of research here, and let me throw this up at you because this does tie into it a little bit. Okay. The liberal mentality is that we can just give away money, print more money, and all this. Okay, along with the LGBTQIA. Well, here's what this is costing us. Airfare up 29%, almost 30%. Bacon up 23%, almost 24. Beefs up 15%. Butters up 17%. Chicken's up 20%. Coffee 16%. Domestically produced farm foods up 15%, 14%. Eggs 30%. Electricity 16%, almost 17%. Energies up 52, almost 53%. Fresh fruits up 14%. Gas of all types is up 84%.
Mhm.
And this is just since 2020.
Oh,
No,
it's actually since 2021. Actually, those are almost exactly the numbers since 2021. Literally, you can track it to February 1st of 2021, and you will see that the numbers track. We've had, and it's funny, we've had about
New cars.
16% inflation in the United States, all sectors, on average, everything put together is 16% inflation in the nation, and we've had a 17% increase in the national debt. It's really interesting how those two things
are
go
having
together.
a mild winter this winter so
Yeah.
far, because propane, kerosene, and firewood are up 43.11%.
Mhm.
Okay, used cars and trucks up 45.
Mhm.
New cars are up 16%.
Yeah, we're in a recession. We've been in a recession since August of 2022. They
Okay.
changed the definition of recession. They won't say that word, but as everyone who pays a bill, everyone who goes to a grocery store, which are not members of Congress, everyone else knows, yeah, we're in a recession. We've been in a recession for over a year now, and we're going to continue to be in this recession, most likely until 2025, based on everything we have right now. because the policies have failed and they're doubling down on them. We're spending money that we don't have, and we have our government is wasting money on some of the most ludicrous ideas and things like having gay sex in the Senate. They're wasting our money. They waste our time, our money, and our effort. And that's why it makes me livid. And then they turn around, and if you question this, if you say we're in a recession, if you say you can't keep spending money we don't have, it hurts the poor. If you turn around and say that having gay sex in the Senate are bad, oh, you're the problem. Well, you're just MAGA. You just want to make America great. How dare you want to do that? Don't you know America's in decline? America's a horrible nation. America is a colonizer. You're a bad person. Don't you know that? Stop complaining. Keep your head down. Say nothing. By the way, you're suppressed now. How dare you speak out? And literally, they hit you with you're suppressed. I can show you guys. Yesterday, if you know this, we're content creators on YouTube. Any content creator on YouTube, they know there's a new tab. You go to research, and that's YouTube telling content creators this is what you should be talking about, and it recommends things like news, CNN. This is what they gave me. I watch Deutsche Welle, BBC, The Guardian, Times of Israel, Forbes magazine, international news media. I don't watch CNN. I don't go to CNN for news stories. And they're like, no, you should be watching CNN. Here's all these. There's like here's 5 clips from CNN so that you can talk about Democrat politics the way that's approved. And the other thing they recommended for me to make content on, folks, a conservative Republican. Here's another source for you to make content on to support The View. I've never watched The View a day in my life. I don't think, other than a couple of clips here and there over the last, 20 years, I think I've seen all 5 minutes of the entire program. On clips, I've never watched it, don't have any desire. I find it annoying by its mere existence, let alone its content. And they're telling me, hey, this is what you should be pushing. This is what you need to put out to be successful on YouTube. And when I showed a picture of that, which I have, I showed that yesterday and said, this is how they are trying to manipulate what the public gets to see by controlling what we use as a source and the types of stories we get to say. Well, this morning I woke up and YouTube deleted a video of mine from 4 months ago because I dared to show, you know how you go and do cost of living calculators? In fact, if you type in cost of living calculator in Google right now, cost of living calculator 2023, the number 3 return is the cost of living calculator I used as an example in a live stream 4 months ago. I linked it in the description so that people would have access to the sources I was using, just like I do with Deutsche Welle and The Guardian, the New York Times, MSNBC. All my sources are listed. And they said, oh, you put that in. We're deleting the live stream, removing it because we don't like that Google preferred 3rd ranked Google source, because you dared to show someone a cost of living calculator that wasn't approved. This is all connected. These things are all connected together. It's not conspiracy. This is what's happening in front of us. Sorry, I went on a little bit there, but you see what I'm saying? Does it?
Well, I want to show you. Okay. We got talking into the scandal in the Senate. Okay. Or what happened. We've touched on inflation. I want to show you how out of touch these liberals really are, because Ilhan Omar just passed or just tweeted something. Okay. Congress passed a bill that authorizes a record-setting 886 billion in military spending for 2024. Meanwhile, Americans want universal health care, free school meals, a raise for public school teachers, cancels college debt, a sustainable minimum wage, affordable housing, and low prescription drug costs.
No, they don't. They don't want that. That's a lie. And the polls will prove no, that's not what they want.
Okay, so these items will all contribute to more inflation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Destroy the poor.
Universal health care. The only way you're going to pay for that is print more money. Free school meals. Again, the way you're going to pay for that is either increase taxes or print more money. Raise for public school teachers. Again, raise taxes or print money. Cancel college debt. Okay. This is money that is already a part of our deficit that we need to pay our deficit with, yet they want to cancel this college debt that was pulled out of the federal treasury. Sustainable minimum wage. Okay, yeah, go ahead and raise the minimum wage. Nobody else's wages are going to raise, so you're going to just create more people that are paid minimum wage than what there currently is.
Actually, no. Let me correct you on that. According to the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, in 3 separate reports in 2018, in 2019, and again in 2022, increasing the federal minimum wage will result in somewhere between 1.5 to 3 million Americans losing their job. It will it will make cost of living worse for the poor. It will increase the number of people who are poor by approximately 500,000 to roughly 2 million. And so it's actually going to hurt the poor. It's going to get more people unemployed. And at the end of the day, it is more negative than beneficial because it only affects the number of people who are getting minimum wage, which is about, on the high side, in a high year, 3% of the population. 3% of the population.
Well, there also is another segment of the population that if you want to say benefits from a raise in the minimum wage, it's certain union members. Certain unions have in their contract that their base salary for the lowest earning member of their union must be a numerical factor of the minimum wage. So they say, well, our lowest paid staff person gets 4 times the minimum wage as part of the contract. If minimum wage is $10 an hour, and I know these aren't the right numbers, I'm just using it for mathematical purposes. That means that the lowest price guy gets $40 an hour. Well, if you raise the minimum wage to $11 an hour, now the lowest price guy gets 44 because he's got to get 4 times the amount. What they don't tell you is that the person who's second lowest, third lowest, fourth lowest, they all have incremental adjustments in their salary that says, well, the next tier up has to get 1.5 times that of the person just below them. So now you have a guy going from 40 to 44, and the guy who was above that was going, say, 50 to 55. All right. Now he's going for, so that percentage trickles upward because the more that you gravitate towards the higher pay. Now the person who's at the top of the scale is making even more than that. So that's why you always find unions are always in favor of constantly increasing the minimum wage. Now, you say, well, who in the union makes minimum wage? Well, nobody in the union makes minimum wage, but union salaries are tied to the minimum wage by percentages. So the more you pay the union, the minimum wage worker, the more money these union workers get, like UAW and all the rest of that.
Mhm.
And then you wonder why your Jeep Grand Cherokee costs you $117,000. So,
Well, unless you are in a union, okay, for the most part, wages, when minimum wages are increased, besides the loss of jobs, stagnate. So anybody that was making below $15 an hour, yeah, they get raised up to $15 an hour. Anybody that's making more than $15 an hour, guess what? They're not going to get a raise. They're not going to get a proportional raise.
Well, that's the way they like to make it sound. That's the way they sell it.
Is exactly what
Everyone
they like to make it sound.
Everyone up the scale is going to get a raise. No, you're not.
No,
there's no incentive to pay the second tier worker more money because you paid the first tier worker more money. What you do is have an incentive to have people now all making first tier money.
Yeah, and the thing is now we have this group that 3% of the population that's making the current minimum wage. Okay. Now we all of a sudden increase that to $15 an hour. If the population of the United States had, let's say, 15% of people making $15 an hour or under, we have just now increased the percentage of people making minimum wage to 15%.
Yeah, you set a new bottom. The cost of everything has to go up because where's the money coming from? Passed on to the consumer. Again, this is why it kills the poor. And you've expanded the base of poverty instead of reducing it. And
it doesn't help.
No,
it hurts across the board.
And when you raise the prices 20% across the board for everything that has the, that people have to live on, who do you hurt the most? The people at the lowest end of this financial spectrum, because now that's more of their capital being paid for the basics. So if everything goes up 20%, the guy who's making $5,000 a week doesn't care if his milk is $3 a gallon or $2.50 a gallon, but the person who's making $300 a week, that 50-cent gallon of difference means the difference between them being able to bring home a loaf of bread too.
Right.
Yeah. But this is why they always like to frame it differently. This is why they word these things so carefully in the news media and why they don't talk about the consequences of these things. I mean, if our senators, if our members of Congress weren't so busy making porn, then maybe they'd actually take some extra time to talk to the public about the consequences of what they're doing and how
they're never going to talk about the consequences of what they're doing.
Apparently not.
That's if they talk about the consequences of what they're doing, that's to admit that their policies and agendas are flawed.
Which is apparent. It's not a secret. We're all paying bills. I know Nancy Pelosi has her interns and her staffers filling her refrigerator with luxury custom-made ice cream. The rest of us peons, the rest of us serfs who are living in the world don't get that luxury. So, I understand the disconnect of especially people who've been in Congress for like 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades. 75% of Congress have been there way too long. They are completely disconnected from what the reality of people's lives are. And people like Joe Biden, who've been in for 4 or 5 decades, no clue what's going on with the rest of the world. Because you know what? My brother isn't working in a foreign country getting paid by the CCP $10 million for his influence because how he can influence me on my YouTube channel. If he can, go do it, Rich. If you can do it, get the money. But I don't think anyone's going to pay him for that. but they did for Hunter. And it's because of this corruption, this overwhelming layer of corruption on top of everything. Saying nothing except what's approved. It's only the approved message. It's only about the image, the imagery, the emotional manipulation. It's all about the sales pitch. It's never about the consequence. It's never about the reality. It's never about how this is going to hurt people. It frustrates me when we see all of these things come together. It's so aggravating.
Well, have you seen this?
What?
This is what was performed at the White House.
Oh,
Oh, the dance routine.
blood hits the
Stop. Get rid of the audio.
You got to hit mute.
Last time you did this, they blocked internationally our live stream. You got to get rid of the audio.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go?
You know what?
I can sing it. They can't catch that up.
That'd be better.
But this is look at this insanity. Really?
It's dystopian. They call it the Hunger Games, and it is. Oh, by the way, the group that did this, they're a bunch of progressive radicals.
Gee, you don't say.
It's literally a political. The dance troupe is also a political activist organization. What a shock! And they're far left. Amazing.
This is idiocracy. This is idiocracy meets the Hunger Games. This is just ridiculous.
You know how much money they spent on that? Money that could have gone to feed somebody, house somebody, fix something. And I'm not saying, you know, every president, every Christmas, they always have some kind of message. I don't need my president to do the Hunger Games Christmas special. I don't need that. All you have to do is show up in the Oval Office. I hope everyone has a great Hanukkah, great Christmas. Kwanzaa is not real. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great holiday. That's all I need the president to do. That's it. Go out. You know what? Help the economy. Go out and buy a gift for somebody. If you can, buy two. That's it. That's what I want the president to say. I don't need a production. Why do we need that?
This was Dr. Jill. That was her handiwork.
She's not elected. Why is she getting a choice to do anything? Did she pay for it out of her pocket? No, she didn't.
I'm sure she did.
Hell no.
I'm sure she did. She had to have. Because there's no way government would squander that kind of money on something like that.
Which is, it's ineffective. You guys have heard me say this forever. It's ineffective. It's inefficient and ineffective.
It's not, because George Takei went all over Twitter for 2 days bragging about this production as if it was the greatest thing since lube. The guy went nuts.
And I don't care. George Takei is a B-list actor who doesn't act. He doesn't have a job. I don't care what he thinks.
But that's their effectiveness, though. They do these little things because it creates 30 seconds of uproar for us, where we go, look at how friggin' ridiculous it is. But these are little clips that get passed around the various communities and social special interest groups that to try and back up their voting base. That's where it's effective. It's effective in political campaigning to say, oh, look how much outreach they do for our community. They see us. They finally see us.
And they think you're a clown. Take the money.
This is the Dorrance.
That's how we see it. That's how you see it. That's how they see it. That's not how their communities that they're trying to placate see it.
I don't think the American people are that stupid. We
No,
have
there are a lot of them that
30,000
are.
Americans. We have 30,000 Americans that have been abandoned around the world in
Dude, you had
Afghanistan, Ukraine, and the Sudan this year, not to mention the hostages being sexually tortured right now.
listen.
Go get them.
I'm going to let you in on a secret. I'm going to let you in on a secret, and this is going to be something that might be a little hard to swallow. 75% of the American people don't give a shit about the Americans lost overseas. They don't give a shit. Period. End of discussion. End of story. They
Because most of them don't know.
care. And even if they did, they won't care. It's not going to matter a blip on their radar. It's not going to matter a blip on their radar because they don't care about what's happening right in front of them half of the time. They're not going to be concerned about expats living overseas. They say, oh, well, they got caught up in something over there they shouldn't have been getting involved in. That's on them. They don't care. The people don't care. They care about what affects their life directly and what image they can put next to their own self in the mirror and say, oh, they're addressing something that looks just like me. That's what they care about. We have a
I don't think so. That's what Hollywood wants us to think. That's the whole reason why we've got Doctor Who with Shooty got one. It's not.
There are more people believe it than what you think. People are at the end of it all are self-centered. They care about themselves, their own interests, and everything else, and they're going to go with whatever aligns with the most of their self-interests. And as it is right now, we're running 50-50 in this country right now with who believes what. The deciding factor is going to be in the wallet. It's going to be in the pocketbook that becomes the deciding factor. That people are going to say, listen, I don't care if these people are politically, ideologically like me. I can't afford to heat my house. I can't afford to put gas in my car. I can't afford to put food on the table. That's what's going to make a difference to them. But when times are good and everybody's happy and they can afford everything and everything is peaches and roses, it goes right back to 75% of the people saying, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. So long as it's good for me, I don't care. They do not care. Sparkly things. They're fish in a pond. They see the bait twinkle in the sunlight in the water. They go after it. If they catch it, they catch it. If they don't, they don't. They forget about it and move on to the next piece.
I don't agree. I don't think so. But Mike, what do you think? Do you think I'm between me and Frank? Where are you?
I'm honestly at a loss at a lot of what's going on. I know Democrats are spending money like crazy. They have consistently abandoned anyone overseas of American heritage. Whenever there's been a crisis, whether that crisis is in Israel, Gaza, and Afghanistan,
Benghazi,
etc.
Saigon.
Yeah, no matter where it is, they've continuously abandoned them. Diplomatically, we've given away a ton over time. They are talking about another huge package for Ukraine.
Yeah.
And here we are, we're fighting some of the highest rates of inflation that anybody living has ever seen.
Wow. No.
What?
Well, Weimar Republic, different.
Well, no. Well, besides Weimar, but, stagflation of the 70s, 77, 78, 79 under Jimmy Carter was.
I don't think it was as high percentages as we're seeing today.
It was stagflation, as I recall, was about, mind you, I'm going off my memory, and I was alive then, but I was really young.
Yeah, so was I.
We were in the 14 to 16% range, which adjusting it to today's would put
Well,
it about 20% or so.
I remember being a little kid and hearing people brag that they got 8% mortgage rates when Reagan came in. You know, after Reagan,
it was a big,
8%. So that was down significantly from 2 years previous.
right.
And
It was about 12%.
I mean, Reagan did
Yeah, but
single-handedly stop.
But in 81 and 82 to see 8% and hear people brag about it, we look at 8% now like it's the end of the world. So,
during the Reagan administration, okay, I'm not going to say Reagan stopped it, but during the Reagan administration and the Congresses of that administration, we did see a stop to stagflation.
No, he stopped it. He had massive changes in economic policy and international policy in terms of energy. He stopped it pretty dead cold because Carter's the very liberal precursor to progressivism that Carter was putting out there did not work at all.
But I mean, this year, and I want to do a year in recap episode shortly after the first of the year, where we kind of go back over what we have talked about, what we've seen over the past year, and so forth, and just show people literally what has transpired over the past year and why we need to be so concerned about the direction in this country's headed. I mean, we've seen some horrendous things over the past year, and nobody seems to want to address them. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. These issues are not being addressed. They're being covered up.
Yeah, we were talking about illegal immigration and the impact in Boston and Chicago and New York, as well as California and, of course, all the southern border. You're starting to see people are starting to figure it out, though, because even John Fetterman, who I still believe should be medically disqualified for being in the Senate. He is unqualified because of his medical condition, because he's lost cognitive capability. Even with that, as a medically broken clock, he still gets it right sometimes, where today, and I don't mean what the news media is running with right now, what NBC is running with right now, saying, well, John Fetterman says he's not a progressive anymore. I don't care. He can claim anything he wants. And when he was running for the race, he claimed he was a progressive, and even Politico was quoting him as being a progressive. That's
the only reason why he's claiming not to be progressive is he's trying to stay in office.
That's it. Yeah. Progressives are looked at negatively, especially after what we saw with MIT, UPenn, and Harvard, where the progressive incubators or colleges are saying genocide is okay, which is insane. This is what they're incubating. We've been talking about that for a while, of course. But even John Fetterman is now saying, hey, we need to fix the border. It is a national security risk. It is an infrastructure risk. It is destroying cities, and it is hurting every single American. We can't keep doing this. Even John Fetterman is now coming out, and he's talking about supporting Israel, where Americans, and let me, again, for people who have not heard me say this before, and if you've never seen me before, you haven't heard it in the last 2 months. Let me make it very clear. Why is Israel more important than the Ukraine? 33 Americans were killed by Hamas, who decided to commit an act of abject terror and killed civilians, including Americans, Nepalese, Thai nationals, the British, and many other nations, as well as Israelis. They killed them. New York Times doesn't want to talk about that. CNBC, NBC, they dropped out. Hamas killed Americans. They captured and have hostage 22 Americans that are being tortured and sexually abused as we speak. That makes it an American issue. It's not just an Israel Hamas issue. It is an American issue, and therefore we need to take action.
Well, I honestly
And
believe
now
the
Fetterman
biggest
agreed.
reason why Biden and so many liberal leaning politicians want to keep pushing so much money into Ukraine is because they want to keep covering up what was actually going on in Ukraine. Okay. They want to cover up the corruption that was going on because I guarantee there were a lot of them involved, including Joe Biden, because Joe Biden literally admitted to it.
Yeah, 2017.
Okay. And then we have, I know others. Okay.
Nancy Pelosi
We
scared
had
a couple people.
the United States had multiple biolabs, level 4 biolabs in Ukraine. They don't want that information getting out.
No, that was credibly disclosed in February of 2022.
Yeah, they don't want to disclose what they were actually researching there.
Yeah, they said it was food related and left it at that. But the level of security, level 3, is beyond. I mean, we already do the food related research in the United States. That's a level 2. They're doing level 3 and possibly 4 in the Ukraine, as disclosed by the Department of Justice. No, excuse me, the DOD in February of 2022, right after Putin went in, when they first said we need to support Ukraine. And then literally that news came out the first week of the attack and then has never been spoken about again by any major mainstream news media since that time.
Yeah, and it won't be. Okay, because they want it covered up. That's why we're spending more money in Ukraine than we spent for almost all of Afghanistan and Iraq.
In the first year alone, depending on your source, we've spent somewhere between $111 billion, according to the White House, and every other source says it's over 170 billion that we've spent when you put all the numbers together. It is literally the GDP of the country of the Ukraine in 2019. We have completely 100% funded Ukraine for an entire year.
And let's not forget, it's not only the quote unquote war we've been funding their pension system.
Yeah. No, when I say complete,
every single the lights don't go on in Ukraine unless an American is paying the bill for it.
Yes.
There is nothing going on in Ukraine that we are not paying for. We're paying for every single thing, their domestic product, everything. We're paying the whole thing. These people, we can't have these people walking around with no money in their pocket. Well, why not? They're not paying for anything else. They're getting the food for free. Their electric was being paid for by us. Their was being paid for by us. They're getting everything for free, and we're giving them pension on top of that. I don't see anybody paying into our social security system.
No.
Well, we're paying for the Ukrainian pension.
No,
system.
actually, they're taking from our social security system to pay for this shit.
Yeah, and then they tell us, "Oh,
and then
well, you just love Putin." Then it's like,
okay,
one has nothing to do with the other.
Here's the biggest reason why there is a push to get rid of Social Security is to keep Congress from stealing from it.
Yeah, sometimes that's the best thing. If you can't have it and the other guy can't have it and nobody can have it, that means nobody could abuse it. Sometimes it's better off.
Okay, and that is one of the biggest things about the Social Security system. That, I mean, it's a Ponzi. First off, it's a Ponzi scheme. Okay, it's a legalized Ponzi scheme.
True.
Secondly, Ed has been literally being robbed for, I'm not even sure of how many administrations now, in order to fund a lot of shit that Congress has no authority to fund.
Got to be in a lockbox. No, it's insane. It is insane. And then you see Zelensky here. Not only is he over here glad-handing with all of these senators and Congress people, he was out there talking with all of the defense contractors. They're presenting him with different ideas of defense products that they have that they may not have been able to sell to the United States, but maybe they can sell to him, and then he'll tell the United States, hey, well, you got this missile system that you guys don't have, but this company makes. Can you buy it for us? Can you send that over to us? Because you guys don't use it. So, so now you have defense contractors here selling him shit that he's going to use our money to buy.
And then it's going to wind up in the hands of people in Africa, as it has been. And money's going to disappear into a black hole of international trade, which it has. And if you bring this up, again, you're the bad guy. Oh my God, you're so MAGA. How dare you? You must want Putin to win. Where did I say that? When did we say anything even like that? No, now you're just making stuff up to put into our mouths to try and win back people over emotionally. But we never said anything like that.
No.
And anyone who wants to say that, now they're showing themselves for being absolutely bankrupt. They are morally and politically bankrupt because they have nothing to argue the facts. They have to make up something to emotionally attack and try and take down our character, which does not apply.
No,
we're talking about accountability. We're talking about affordability. We're talking about how this is impacting Americans.
And if you paid attention to our show, watched any of our previous episodes and so forth, you've seen a few different times when I've ranted on Social Security and why I do not agree with it. And there's a number of reasons, but one of the biggest ones, and this is very telling for our country, the fact that so many people are fighting so hard to try to quote unquote save Social Security, and they get so riled up whenever anybody mentions getting rid of Social Security. I want you to think about it, because currently, right now, I think the maximum payment that somebody receives from Social Security is a little over $3,500 a month.
I think that's correct. I'm not sure. I don't know what the top payment is.
Okay. Now, if you were to invest the same amount of money that you are currently putting into Social Security, by the time you retired, you would be a multimillionaire, number one. Considering if you started at 18, started working at the age of 18, hell, even if you didn't start working until you're in your mid-20s, by the time you got to retirement age, you would be a multimillionaire. Okay, number one.
Well, let's add a caveat to that. Let me add a caveat to that, because then people who don't know the stock market, which is most people, even if you are to take into account the recessions that have happened, if you were to take into account downturns in the economy and inflation, even factoring that in, given a 5 to 7% interest return on investment, which is considered minimal. It's the same kind of return that your local grocery store is making in a year, 5 to 7%. That's right. They're not getting rich. It's 5 to 7%.
No, they're not.
But just on that minimal return, then yes, over your lifetime, by the time we're talking about 60 years, by the time you start collecting Social Security, it is a financial fact that the math will work out, and people have done this as an experiment. They have actually done this. Yeah, you'll wind up with a couple $1 million. It is absolutely true.
Okay. And you will be making a lot more, even if you just lived on the interest of that. A lot more than $3,500 a month.
Mhm.
Okay. And you'd be set for the rest of your life. But yet, Social Security, because it's been robbed from so many times, it has no return. You are actually, if you depend upon Social Security for your retirement, you are going to suffer. Very few people that I know of that are living on Social Security are able to make ends meet.
Well,
Well,
no. Go ahead.
speaking, I remember seeing my, was it Medicare is what you get when you're a senior? Or is that
Yes.
Medicare? Right? I would always love how, they're giving you a bump in your Social Security. You're getting a cost of living adjustment for $60 a year or $50 a month or whatever, and you on that. But then they turn around and jack up your premium on Medicare by that plus 10%. And then they say, there's no reason why Americans shouldn't be able to make do on their Social Security.
No, the people who say that how could you not live on Social Security are the same people who've been living in Congress. They don't pay taxes. They have, they can actually write bounced checks, knowingly write checks that will bounce, which is considered a forgery. And they can do that legally. They live in mansions that are walled off from the public. They live in secured facilities or apartment complexes that cost $15,000 a year, and they drive Teslas. Yeah, I'm talking about AOC, Anna Presley. What's her name? Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and Corey Bush. Yeah, they have no connection to reality, none, because they're politicians. They've been stuck in politics all their life. They don't do anything else. They don't know anything else. They've been living off of the grift of either people donating to organizations like Act Blue or BLM, and then they transition into the government paying them, and they just make money. It's really insulting. And again, that brings us back to, or in part of that is, and you get to live on that grift, maxed out all the way. Even if you lie to the public, which, like Adam Schiff, who lied to the American people, said he had evidence, went on Rachel Maddow for a year, maybe two, and said nightly that he had evidence, concrete, absolute evidence that the 4 investigations costing $35 million, none of them found it, none of them saw it, never happened. He's still in Congress. What about Bob Menendez, he was receiving gold bars as part of the bribes and corruption that he is involved with. He's still in elected office. We have, how many people can we point to? We know that Joe Biden started getting payments that were connected to China in his bank account in 2015 while he was vice president. That is
but there is absolutely no evidence to justify this impeachment inquiry into Biden.
Yeah, no evidence whatsoever, except we have a financial trail that goes from China to Joe Biden's bank account starting in 2015 when he was
maybe that's why
president.
Hunter didn't show up for his subpoena for his congressional hearing.
And did you also notice the change in the narrative? It went from my father had no no knowledge of my business dealings, to
Which
my
is a lie.
father was not involved in my business dealings,
Which is a
to my
lie.
father was not financially involved in any of my business dealings. That was the story as of yesterday. He added the caveat word in financially because they know they're about to prove that he was involved in the business. Now he's trying to say, well, he wasn't financially involved in the business. It's like if I wanted to open up selling cannolis, and I wanted to use my mother's cannoli recipe, and I put my mother's picture on the box. No, my mother's not. Yeah, she's a part of the company because it's my mother's picture on the box, but she's not involved with the company. She's not financially involved with the company, but it's a picture on the box. That's pretty much what he's trying to say. So it's just no.
Well, no. It's literally.
My name is Biden. So yes, people do business with me because my name is Biden, and I use it to my advantage. There's nothing illegal about that. No,
Actually, there is.
No, if he says my name is Biden, I make money because my name is Biden. You make money because your name is Biden. If the old man had nothing to do with anything, there's nothing wrong with playing on your name. We see celebrities been doing it for forever.
Well,
it's
no,
when
but
the
it's
old
different.
makes phone calls on your behalf, takes meetings on your behalf, has something to do with everything on your behalf, gets 10% of everything and everything, and you try to hide it. It's a different story. It's like, look,
no, he went from the gray area of trading on his family name, which could be political influence, into the absolute fact, the absolute clarity that yes, he was trading influence. The vice president, the former vice president, depending on the time frame of when he's doing it, either the active vice president or the former vice president or the presidential nominee is actively doing business with his son.
Right.
So he went from the potential to the fact of trading.
Right, and now he's not financially involved with it. It's like it's the Nancy Sinatra syndrome. Nancy Sinatra would have never gotten the contract, the record deal for These Boots Were Made for Walking if her last name wasn't Sinatra. But her father didn't make the phone call. He made that call based on her last name. And that's the same thing. He could have been making millions of dollars with his last name being Biden. He didn't have to bring the old man into
that would have been fine.
Right, that would have been fine just by him saying, "Yeah, I'm related to the vice president and now president, whatever." That would have been fine for him to trade it on. It would have been no quid pro quo. But his old man got involved in the business because he wanted his vig, he wanted his 10%,
and that's where the crime comes in. And we know that he did get his vig because we have the financial records, which means that qualifies as pen. But
that check for $40,000 was repayment of a loan. Okay, then can you show me where the $40,000 check went going from Biden to the person who he made the loan to?
Well, not only does it make sense that he's repaying his son for a loan for a truck. Okay, show me the truck, show me the payments, show me the money going back and forth, which they don't have and they can't show. But more importantly, we've tracked the money. We have there's a thing that's called financial forensics. It's kind of like, for the average person, when you think of CSI, you see the TV show CSI, and they're doing forensics with all the, they're getting the fingerprints and they're tracking that back to a person, or they get a bullet or some kind of evidence and they track it to a person. Well, the same concept of here's the evidence, we track it back to a person, is called financial forensics. And that's what they've done on Joe Biden's bank account and the money coming from China. It's not a question, did the money come from China? It did. We know this. And it's been doing so for a long time. The only question is, was that done as part of influence peddling, or was it outside of that? And that's why we have an impeachment, which is a trial. And that's what it's supposed to be. That's why he should be impeached, because it's the trial to understand we have evidence. We're now trying to understand the context of that evidence to understand if it broke the law. So when you hear the Democrats say, he's a saint, he's done nothing wrong. Joe Biden has lied to the American people to their face consistently in terms of medication that he promised was going to be perfect, had no side effects, that you could take it and you would be perfectly healthy. Lie. He lied to the American people. We got everybody home from Afghanistan except for 100 people who didn't want to come. That's a lie. 5,000 still remain missing over there. He lied to the American people in their face. He does it on a regular basis. Bidenomics is working. You're doing great. You just don't understand. You're a liar, because I do understand my bank account. I do understand how I have to pay money out of my wallet. He's a liar. Yes, we need to impeach him, and we should just get it done. But the sad thing is, every single president is going to be impeached from now on.
Oh, yeah, guaranteed.
It's just part of the political process now.
Okay. Has anybody seen this?
Okay, so for people who aren't looking at the screen and seeing this, somebody say it, because I don't have my glasses. I can't read it.
So top insurance CEO announces that white male new hires must be personally signed off by herself as a part of the firm's drive to improve diversity.
That's racist. She needs to be sued. That's racist. That is racist.
As business push forward in hitting diversity goals, a major insurance company in the UK is telling its 22,000 strong workforce that senior white male new hires must personally be approved by none other than the CEO.
Okay, stop right there, Mike. Before you go any further, this is how I can prove that it's racist. Go back, reread the title, replace anywhere it says white, put in the word black, or put in the word
or Asian,
or Asian, or Muslim. I don't care what minority group you want to name, but literally, and to have it on record, read the sentence again. Just replace white with any minority or individual you want. I don't care which one it is.
Okay. Aviva's boss, Amanda Blanc, said the policy forms a part of the company's efforts to stamp out sexism in the financial services industry.
Yeah. It's whenever and this is the easiest way to figure out, is it sexist, is it racist, is it an is it an ism, is it a phobe? Great. Replace the individual. Just change their sex, change their sexual preference, change their color of skin. If you can say the statement to any color, any group, and it remains repugnant and negative, then it is that ism, that ist, that phobe. If it isn't, then none of them are. This is racism.
It is. It's blatant racism and sexism. Okay. And she blatantly admits it. Okay.
One second. Joanna says, I think I can read this properly. I got to get my glasses. If we impeach him, then everything sticks that he, Joe Biden, has put into effect and can't be changed.
No, that's not true, Joanna.
Not correct at all.
Actually, regardless of whether he's impeached or he's voted out of office, any policy that Joe Biden has put into place can be changed by the next administration.
It would be the same thing as any regular change in president, where, like, as an example, President Trump was supporting the XL pipeline. Joe Biden comes in, and on January 21st, he, with the movement of his pen, killed the XL pipeline, causing 11,000 people to be unemployed and to create throughout the Midwest a wave of unemployment. He could do that because he's president. You can rescind and change the executive order of any other president just by writing a new executive order.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, if he's impeached, and if not just impeached, which proves whether or not he's guilty of a crime, but then also removed. If he is impeached
no,
and
and
removed, it would
impeachment doesn't even prove that they're guilty of a crime. What an impeachment is it is the House saying that we have enough evidence to warrant a trial by the Senate to determine
Right.
if there is grounds for removal.
Right.
Okay. And impeachment is nothing more than
The
an
trial.
indictment.
Right. It starts the trial. And that's what I'm saying. It's if he were to be impeached, that doesn't change anything about the executive orders, even if he is to be removed, which would come after the impeachment. Again, that does not change the executive orders. As an example, Donald Trump was impeached and twice, and that still had no impact on his executive orders until Joe Biden came in and physically, actively wrote new executive orders that reversed the prior ones. It wasn't because the impeachment didn't change the executive orders. It was Joe Biden actively saying, nope, we're no longer going to employ these people with the XL pipeline. We're actively going to increase the price of oil and gas in the United States and stop America from being energy independent. Mind you, I'm adding in the consequences of his action, but that's what he actively did. It didn't automatically happen. So that's a misconception a lot of people have about impeachment and removal and its consequences. So we can definitely impeach him. We could definitely remove Joe Biden, and that would not affect whether or not any of his policies would be removed. That would be a separate action. Just for clarity.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I need my glasses. I can't see. It's just, I've been trying to get through this and I can't do it. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Talk about being prepared. Well, on a personal note, here in our HOA, our house was selected as one of the top 3 winners as most nicely decorated. so I've got about $1,300 worth of Christmas lights up on the outside of the house, so we could win a $24 gift certificate.
Yeah. Congratulations, Frank.
Well, I don't know if you can see it or not.
We can see it coming through the sheet.
Well, let me shut that for a second. Yeah, all of these. The hell is that? I don't.
It's like little reindeer going across.
Yeah, but that's not part of my thing. That's some sort of glitch in the software right there. But I have laser projectors outside projecting. I got 4 different laser projectors outside, projecting all kinds of stuff. What this here is, let me tone that down a little bit. God, that's bright. What this here is, this is an interior projection screen that I have. I have a projector over there on the other side of my office that I project Santa Claus at. And then he does his little like marionette show out the window, does all these other special effects. But I can't have that thing running while I'm up here in the office because otherwise I'm sitting right in the line of the projector screen. So I'm like, be right.
They have your big head in there.
Oh, wow. I can actually see what everyone wrote now.
Like
and they have a lot. Yeah. I got it. I'm of that age. Yes, I need the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
I know I know I wanted to talk about sex in the Senate. And which isn't a TV show, but maybe it will be now. And that's really moral decline of America right there. That's another aspect of it that's really insulting. I wanted to talk a little bit about John Fetterman, which we were talking about a little bit. And he's being thrown under a bus, by the way, as he flip-flops trying
Oh,
to...
he will.
he's
Guaranteed.
he's pissing off the
He's
progressives.
done.
Well, he shouldn't be there. He's medically not capable.
Yeah.
And
But
even
he's
though,
done. He'll end up getting voted out because he won't get the backing.
but he thinks right now that he'll get Republicans to support him because now he's saying the obvious things of, let's take care of America. And, oh my God, make America great, because it's such an evil statement. And so, but he's still going to be out because he shouldn't be there in the first place. I never wanted him. I don't care what he supports right now. He shouldn't be there. That being said, so I wanted to cover that. But the third thing I wanted to cover today, did you hear about the ATF?
No.
I'm always hearing about the ATF.
Okay, so Frank
I'm just off camera, but I'm listening right here.
Okay, so the ATF just came out with something.
I'm going to actually ask you to hold off on this.
Okay.
I want to bring up something else kind of related to the last thing.
Okay, yeah.
That we just talked about. This is from resumebuilder.com.
One in six. So the title, for those who can't see the screen, 1 in 6 hiring managers have been told to stop hiring white men. So again, how is that racist? Let's check. 1 in 6 hiring managers have been told to stop hiring black men or women or Muslims or, I don't know, Hindus. Name your group. Gee, any other group that I could put in there besides white male or, other than white men? Guess what? It is racist, if possibly sexist, possibly religious discrimination. It is a violation. That is insultingly bad. And there is no way, and I know and I've heard the progressives, I actually do a live stream occasionally with this PhD, and they love to say, well, you can only be racist if you have power. That's stupid. That has nothing to do with racism, because there's a lot of poor, dumb people in the world who are racist. They didn't need power to be racist. The only reason why we hear people say, well, it's about power, is because they're trying to protect themselves from being racist. It's, you can't call me a racist. I don't have enough power to be a racist. So I'm just giving my truth. No, you're just being a racist. And you're trying to justify the racism you're doing. Kind of like Harvard's president, Catherine Gay, who is a genocide. She supports genocidal mania. She should be fired, like UPenn was fired. They should all be fired. It's insulting.
They should. Okay. And I mean, this is a form of racism. And I mean, you can try to say that it's not because it's not a protected class, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it is. I see you got your projector going, Frank.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my settings right so anyone watching can enjoy the show. Right now I have penguins swimming.
Oh, God. You're crazy. But
okay, so let's go back to the ATF.
I can't look out my front window without going blind.
You're funny. I want to show this with the ATF. There it is. Okay, you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay, so state attorney generals are up in arms over a proposed ATF rule. Now, you'd have to wonder, gee, half of the attorney generals throughout America or state attorneys throughout America are saying the ATF is overreaching its boundaries. Remember, the Supreme Court recently ruled that the ATF and other
Yeah.
agencies of the United States government can't overreach. They need Congress to make these laws that they're putting in place to punish American citizens. They can't do this. This is illegal. It's unconstitutional. So you remember that. So that's from the Supreme Court. It's unconstitutional for them to make up their own brand new
Well,
rule.
the ATF's unconstitutional to begin with.
Yes, because Second Amendment shall not be infringed.
Well,
Real simple
not
there.
even that. Okay. Congress has no authority over alcohol. Congress has no authority over tobacco. Okay. They have on interstate commerce. But if alcohol or tobacco are served within a border of a state, then they have no authority over it. Okay. They have no authority over firearms due to the Second Amendment. And if you actually read through the Constitution, I can't find any authority granting them any control over firearms either.
Limited once they cross state lines, depending on your interpretation of interstate
Of how you
commerce.
interpret the Interstate Commerce Clause.
Yeah. Depending on how you look at that, they might at the moment it crosses the state line. But you're right. But so the ATF has said this. And so I wanted to bring up something specifically about this. And you don't have to go far. Luckily, they put it in the second and third paragraph. The rule from the ATF, half the country's attorney generals are fighting this. The rule from the ATF is, according to a release from South Dakota attorney,
I do remember this.
Quote, would make any individual, any American, let's be correct, any American citizen who sells a firearm for profit is liable for civil, administrative, and criminal penalties. You can be sued for selling your firearm.
You can be locked up.
You can be locked up
because you don't have an FFL.
Yeah. This civil liability rule would penalize innocent citizens selling these guns to their friends and their families. Washington is continuing to infringe upon the rights of American citizens. This is according to one of the general attorney from South Dakota. So it's really straightforward. So the ATF, who cannot, this is making a law. They have just made a law about your private property, which they have no rights to, that the government has virtually no right to your private property. And the ATF now says they have control over your private property, and they can determine how you use and transfer your private property to another private citizen. This has nothing to do with the government. There's no interstate commerce involved here. My neighbor is my arm's distance away from me, and I can sell them my firearm if I want to, if they want to purchase it. And now the government's saying, no, you don't actually own that gun. That's what they're really saying. You don't own the gun. The government owns the gun, and the government gets to pick and choose who gets to have that gun. You don't have a right to defend yourself. This is how they take away your rights. This is how they take away your freedoms. This is insane. Not only can they not make law because the ATF isn't Congress, this is a direct violation of your privacy, your property, and the Second Amendment. So you're talking about the Second, the Fourth, and the Fifth Amendment.
And the First Amendment.
No, and the First Amendment. That's right, because you have to talk about it. So, yeah. This is amazing. And I know ammo is going up, but that's slightly different. That's because of Ukraine.
Okay. And it is a stretch, even under the Interstate Commerce Clause. It is an extreme stretch to find any way the federal government has any authority over the private sale of firearms.
Yeah.
Okay, because the majority of firearm sales, private firearm sales, happen within the borders of a state. And that is intrastate commerce. It is not interstate commerce.
Good night, Mike. That's my buddy Mike McLean.
Yeah, I saw him before. I didn't know who it was.
Thanks for being here, Mike.
Definitely. This is so, and they're counting. They are counting on the fact that, one, this story isn't going to get national attention. This isn't going to be on CNN tomorrow night. They're not even going to give it the usual 15 to 30-second wrap up. They're just going to ignore this story completely. It's involving half the nation. Half the states in the country are fighting this, but that's not enough for it to be on CNBC.
Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, if the federal government has the authority to stop these types of sales, then that means that the federal government has the authority to regulate garage sales, yard sales, the sales of the personal sale of motor vehicles. I mean, you name it.
Everything. You have no property. You have no property anymore.
Hold on a second. Jan, to answer your query, no, because that particular item is not ATF regulated.
So she says, so if this happens, will that hamper Frank
from
buying a rifle from a roommate?
No. Yeah, it would.
Well, no, because it's black powder. It's not regulated by ATF. That rifle that you're speaking of is not an ATF regulated item.
That's the exception. Most modern firearms.
And Jen, we will speak about this. You and I will speak about this probably tomorrow. I got to give you guys a call up on Tuesday and get that in the works.
Yeah, but so most modern firearms, but it's a precedent. And see, eventually, and I think to an extent you're wrong, Frank, because it's once the precedent is put in place, when they've made it effective, when they've gone after Americans for doing this against the will of the ATF, which effectively is the will of whatever administration is in. Currently, that means Biden-Harris. Could mean Trump, whomever next time. It could have been Obama, Biden in the past. It's the will of whomever.
We could play that game with everything and anything. I'm of the mind I don't trust government anyway.
Well, yes.
At all, under any circumstances, with anything. So when somebody says, "Oh, well, government can't do that," I go, "Yeah, they can, and they will." Yeah,
they demonstrated that time and time again because people don't speak up.
Right, the way it's currently constructed, you think they can't. Logic tells you they can't. The law tells you they can't. They'll do it anyway, and then there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. So I just said, you want to conduct business? Eyes open, mouth shut. Eyes open, mouth shut. You don't say nothing to nobody. Go conduct your business. Because they're going to do whatever they want to do anyway.
That's one way to do it.
These agencies are obliterated and completely taken out of the context of government until we, the people, finally speak up and say, listen, ATF's got to go. This agency's got to go. This one's got to go. Until all of these agencies go, please expect there to be an administration that will find a way to abuse the powers that they're entrusted with and screw you, the American people.
And this is a great way to, if the ATF can do this with guns, then CDC can do it with virtually anything under healthcare. You can see every other agency do it. There is no property.
USDA will come out and tell you, sorry, you can't sell a cow from state to
No, the
state.
USDA will come out and say you can't have a garden.
No, they actually did that already. They already did.
Think about-
Community gardens. If you have a garden, it's supposed to be registered. They did this over the summer last year. Last year in September, they came out with a ruling that if you have a garden, a community garden, a windowsill, doesn't matter where, if you're growing food, you have to register. You're supposed to register with the federal government so that they can regulate that food. They actually came up with that last year.
Well, that's also in concert with the navigable waterway regulations that they came in that said what land that the Bureau of Land Management can come in and therefore regulate. So if you have a puddle that accumulates in your backyard in a rainfall or after the snow melts, well, if it's beyond a certain square footage, I think it's four square foot, and that water either leads to or gets contributed to by some natural waterway, and they're including how like water drains through the soil and eventually gets to the water table. Well, because it's all getting into the water table, that it's a part of the regulations that they should be able to oversee. And if it's navigable, so if you have a little pond on your property and nothing
Bang.
feeds it and doesn't feed out, but you put a boat on it. As soon as you put a boat on it, they can regulate it.
Yep.
These things are crazy, but and to put this into perspective for people who are watching this and they're going, yeah, but I don't understand why it's such a big deal. Okay, say you're not worried about the fact that it sets the precedent that the government actually owns everything, you own nothing, which is a very popular TED Talk topic to our kids right now. They're being told, you will own nothing. You don't need to own anything. You'll just 3D print everything and you'll actually own nothing. You'll just rent a room. You'll rent a car. You'll 3D print your clothes. You'll buy food as you need. This is what they're trying to convince the kids. So for the rest of us who are a little bit older, have some actual experience and actually read the Constitution, for everyone else, if you're not worried about them saying, okay, the government actually owns everything of yours, think of it this way. They are saying to women and people in high crime areas, in other words, major cities, the 22 major cities in the United States run by Democrats with high crime, high murder rates. If you're in one of those areas or you happen to be a woman, the ATF is now saying you can't be armed. You can't defend yourself because the government hasn't approved. It doesn't matter if you have a permit. It doesn't matter if you have a license or if you have trained. It doesn't matter the type of firearm you're using for self-defense. If you buy the firearm, unless it is approved by the government going through an FFL, then you can't have it. You're a criminal. It's not just that you can't have it. You're a criminal and you need to be thrown in jail. That's what the government is saying right now. Women should not be able to defend themselves. The poor, which would mean in many cases in urban areas, we're talking about minorities, don't get to protect themselves unless the government approves first. You have no rights. You're not a human being. You're subhuman. You have no rights. Stop speaking. That's what they're saying.
Here's a USDA garden registry. Okay. So the USDA opens the People's Garden Initiative to gardens nationwide.
Yeah.
Okay. And this happened September 9th, 2022.
Told you. My memory is good.
Okay. While it does not require you to register your garden, it is encouraged that you register your garden. And the reason why is so that your garden can be put on a map telling people that they can come into your garden and take your food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that is exactly what it is about.
Yes.
Okay. The People's Garden Initiative is part of the USDA's broader efforts to advance equity, support local and regional food systems, and access to food, and encourage use of conservation and climate smart practices. The USDA touches the lives of all Americans each day in so many positive ways. Under the Biden-Harris administration, USDA is transforming America's food system with greater focus on more resilient, local, and regional food production, fairer markets for all producers, ensuring access to safe, healthy, and nutritious food in all communities, building new markets and streams of income for farmers and producers using climate-smart food and forestry practices.
Yeah, I remembered it well. And that's from a year ago, and I remembered it. And I'm sure people in the audience who are watching this right now are going, I never heard about that. You did if you were watching my channel, and I think we talked about it on this channel.
We did.
A year ago. But other than Liberty First Foundation or on my channel, No Sound Bites Allowed, if you didn't see either of those, you didn't know this because they pushed it out there. None of the news media covered it. No major news media touched that story. They're just doing this in the background. I guarantee you, watch. We're going to see the food crisis, which we are in. There's a global food shortage, 30% less food in the world today. And
right now, like I said, it's optional.
Yeah, watch. As the food crisis goes, it's going to become mandatory.
Okay, especially if the current food crisis continues as it is.
Well, the food crisis is going to continue based on all the data we have, all the farmers in Ukraine. The food crisis is going to continue until 2025. It's going to increase in severity to about 40 to 50% less food in the world as compared to 2019. And I think as we get there and it finally really hits Americans, not just 10%, 15% of shelves being empty on any given day, but when we really start to feel this, like a second world, like, Spain or Greece are feeling it, you may see the USDA change their point of view about this. But this is just the same thing. It's the USDA. They're not Congress. They're just like the ATF. They don't have a right to say this. They're like, we have a right to take your farm. Okay, you volunteered for it. They still don't have the right to take your property. Just because I registered my farm, just because I register my firearm, that doesn't mean I gave up my rights. They're literally saying to you, by registering, by letting the government know, you gave away your rights. It's kind of like, on your YouTube, Facebook user agreement. This is in the super fine print that no one reads and no one can see. And it's the super secret code that's like, what was it in Animal House? Double super secret.
Yeah, so double super secret probation.
That's it. Yeah. That's what they're doing to the American people. The American people are on super secret double probation. No one knew about it, but they've been doing it, and they want women and minorities to suffer.
Now, here's one thing that a lot of people don't probably know is, if I'm not mistaken, every county in the United States, with the exception of maybe some densely urban counties, has... Oh, you adding him, Mike?
I was trying. You do it. You do it.
Because I'd
Echo.
Yeah, bad echo for me, Frank.
I'm sorry. I'll try to lower my volume. Good.
Okay. Every county in the United States has a USDA office. There might be some exceptions in very densely urban counties where there really isn't any agricultural production, but pretty much every other county has a USDA office.
Yeah, there are offices all over the place.
Okay,
But-
so if they do enact this law where I'm gonna mute Frank for a little bit because that echo is bad. If they do enact a law where they require registering of gardens, you can guarantee that there will be USDA agents out patrolling and finding and shutting down gardens that aren't registered.
I don't know. It drives me nuts that there's so that the mainstream news media, like YouTube, are so busy trying to suppress conversations like we're having on this channel, conversations with other Americans and people from around the world who have curiosity because they don't even have these freedoms. They didn't know you could discuss these things or that people have these options. They're so busy trying to make America like Angola or China, where people don't question things because they don't have a right to do so. They're so busy doing that that most people are not catching on that it's actually happening. That we have, I mean, look at what they're doing. Oh, register. Yeah, that means the food is ours. Register with the USDA, and it's our food now, not your food. Thank you for giving us a map to know exactly where to go to take it from you. Oh, it's our firearm, not your firearm. Thank you, says the ATF. Now we know exactly where that firearm is, its capacity, and what kind it is. We know who has it, so we can go and get directly to you to take it away from you if we want to. I'm sorry. These are the things that we see in dictatorships. I expect this in Venezuela. I know this happens in North Korea and China. Why are we letting these things happen in the home, the beacon of freedom in the world? Why are we becoming more like the rest of the world instead of trying to lift up the rest of the world? Why are we downgrading freedom?
And that's exactly what we're doing. And people don't understand, okay? Again, if we look at the Constitution and look at the true authority that is granted under the Constitution, we'll find that the USDA has absolutely zero authority over anything that we do in a personal garden. Zero. None whatsoever. Yet here we can see from the way this is worded that is what they are setting the stage to, is to take over our personal gardens and to turn them into quote unquote community gardens, which still they wouldn't even have the authority over them unless commerce is crossing state line. The federal government has no authority over it. But thanks to a flawed Supreme Court ruling, and I'd have to look it up to know exactly which one, which was again dealing with farming, the federal government has been able to expand its powers to start control over intrastate commerce.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't understand this. And people will say, oh, well, just let it go. Just let it go. It's like, no. Joanne says, your driver's license, fine print, that you sign a contract, you are a ward of the state. I don't know. Well, I don't have a driver's license, so I don't know what the fine print says there.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised of New York State or California or Illinois or Maryland trying to slip past people, fine print in there that says, "Oh, but you because you have gotten this driver's license, you authorize us." It's kind of like most people will forget about this. In 2010, when Obamacare first launched, and remember there was the website, the government website, the most expensive website in the history of mankind
That flopped.
that didn't work, completely failed, but we built it, kind of. I wish I had gotten part of that contract. God, it was so, you didn't need to do anything. It just complete failure. Anyway, so the Obamacare website, and in the first 3 months, every time that you would go onto that website, you would get a message from, as soon as you log in, from the government, and would say, because you have logged into the Obamacare website, the United States government now has the right to go into your private computer. Any computer that connected to the website to use Obamacare gave the government the right to go into your computer and to do anything it wanted to with your policies. And people will go, Mike, you're wrong. Look this up. It was the summer of 2010. It was right after Obamacare, 2011, when they launched the website. And it was like the first 3 months, they had a legal pop-up that would tell you, you've now authorized the United States government to access your device and all items contained, all files within. You gave the government, they took over your computer. The government loves to do this crap. If you don't know, they will do it. And what do we see? How corrupt are they? Well, let's see. Andrew Cuomo, he only killed 16,000 people, had a cover up to hide the fact that he killed 16,000 people, had 11 sexual assaults. We thought it was only 7, wound up being 11, and surrounded by absolute corruption. Hillary Clinton destroyed subpoenaed documents. She's surrounded by corruption. Bill Clinton, well, at least we don't even know what happened with Epstein Island, because they still won't tell us who's on the client list or what they did. God knows where's that investigation. We never hear about that. We got Hunter Biden. Look at all the excesses there. Even if you want to throw out everything with Joe, Hunter's running around. I would never be able to run around as long as Hunter Biden has if I illegally filled in, registered for a firearm, lied on the document, got the illegal firearm, and then dropped it off in a garbage can behind a school. No way. I would not. I'd be in jail for 20 years. And I don't mean like Jussie Smollett, who was let out because, being in jail was stressful to him. No shit. That's the whole point. And they let him out for a while, even though he's going back in now. That real people don't get those things.
Yeah, they really don't. And I really don't think people actually understand just how out of control any of our governmental entities have become. Okay, whether you talk about the governmental entity, the pseudo governmental entity of HOAs, or the local municipal governments, or the county governments, or the state governments, or the federal governments. They have all gone way beyond what the charters establishing them have intended.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's
Okay,
why they
and
won't do
then
an audit.
we're literally creating pseudo governments now, and community organizations, block organizations, HOAs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think the reason why we're doing that is equity. Equity is the eternal, constant, pervasive subdivision. First, it's dehumanizing. Equity is dehumanizing. You're not a human being. You're a group of categories. And those categories are constantly being divided, broken down into smaller and smaller and smaller groups eternally. And some outside arbitrary group of elites rank those categories to their own political benefit, never for yours. And that's equity. And to manage all these massive categories, you need more and more forms of government, because you get more and more anarchy, because there's no unity. You can't be unified, not under equity. It's never been unifying. It's divisive. It's separative. And so you need another organization, another ruling body to be able to take care of that ever smaller group of people. And you know what that reminds me? I just thought of it. Feudalism. We're going back to the Middle Ages. I've often said politicians today act like neo-nobles. This is like feudal. When we see equity, it's feudalism. Okay, you have your tier, you have the king, you have which would be president, then you'd have your members of Congress, that's your nobles, your elected officials, those are your nobles. And then you have your barons, your dukes. Well, it's almost like, I guess that's more like a monarchy. Well, yeah, that's still feudalism, a feudal monarchy. And then you'd have your dukes, your barons, your meisters, then your mayors, then your sheriffs. You know, it goes down like that. I'd never thought of it. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay. I'm gonna let Frank show his lights. Okay, so he can get out of here. Whoops.
Go on, show.
All right. I just don't say anything, so I don't have to worry about the echo for a minute. I gotta get going tonight, but I just wanted to show you what you guys are talking about. Mini governments. I'm in an HOA. You'll notice behind me there's like nothing going on at all. There's like nothing. Well, you turn the corner as you come into my HOA and you get into my cul-de-sac. There's nothing. There's nothing at all. Just a street light. That's it. And then you get to here. The first glimmer that you get is my tree. My 12-foot tall illuminated candy canes and my Santa Claus popping up out of the chimney. And you go, wow, that's nice and bright. And then you see the house. I should turn this sideways. Yeah, maybe that's better. Yeah. So I have so much light and laser going on out here that the street light behind me over here keeps flickering on and off because it doesn't know whether it's daylight or nighttime anymore. So, but this is my here's my angel. I got snowfall coming down around her. I got all my inflatables. I got all of this stuff lights up and dances and moves around. It's all laser actuated. There's music. There's all kinds of silly crap. But it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm trying not to keep the neighbors awake, so I got all of that tuned down. So I got to go shut this shit down. But now I gotta walk back up the 200 feet driveway to get back to the house. I gotta log out. My knee popped out of the socket. I'm in a lot of pain. I will catch you guys next weekend. We'll do a Christmas giveaway next week on next Friday's show. So stay tuned for that. Until I see you guys next week, you guys be safe, shoot straight, love you, be safe, and all the rest of that good stuff. Happy Friday, guys.
Okay, we're unmuted.
All right, we're back. Yeah, that is That is very cool. I love seeing those light shows. It's one of the nice things one of the things YouTube does nicely is you get to see those, like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
That's nice. I always like that for the holiday.
So Joanna says,
I'm-
why are the police and majesties not seeing this happening and protect our Constitution?
I think she means magistrates.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that is what she's saying. You have to realize, Joanna, they are agents of the government.
Well, they're human beings. Some of
They
them,
are, but they're still agents of government.
well, yeah, but I
Okay.
mean,
And
let
they
me-
aren't going to jeopardize their paychecks to stand upon principle.
see, and that's what I mean by they're human beings.
Right.
Some of them are just going to do whatever the job is. They're just going to do it. We saw that in the 1930s and 40s with some German soldiers, not all of them. We're not talking about the SS. I'm talking about rank and file soldiers. We've seen that in many wars, Vietnam as another
Mhm.
example, where people would commit atrocities because they were told to,
Right.
because they were just told to. They didn't think. They just did what they were told. So that's
Mhm.
part of the problem. But then there's the other part you were saying.
We do pay their salary, Joanna, but here's the problem. And I harp on this pretty much every week. We are supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Except that is impossible if the people refuse to be involved. It can't happen if people don't become involved. And we are seeing an expansion of police powers all across the nation. We are seeing law enforcement agencies continuously disregarding the Fourth, Fifth, and other amendments to the Constitution. We are seeing continuous violation of individuals' rights that are protected under many state constitutions and under the federal Constitution through various actions of law enforcement, and all under the guise of, well, if we have to do this in order to keep you safe.
Do something. The worst things you can hear from a politician and worst thing to ask them. Do something.
And the thing is liberty is not safe. Absolute liberty or true liberty that was intended by the founders wasn't to keep us safe. It was to provide for the common defense. It was to provide for the general welfare, which both of those have been grossly perverted.
Yeah.
It was never intended to be a system that provided for individuals. It was never intended to be a system to ensure the safety and security of individuals. It was a system designed to ensure the security of a nation. Okay, never for the individual. And that's what the common defense is for. But yet they have perverted the meaning of common defense to allow them to expand the police powers.
Fear.
And
It's
that
all
is
about
their
fear.
justification for why they are constantly trampling upon our rights.
They take advantage of the fact that people are afraid. you're afraid of Hamas, aren't you? Then do what Joe Biden says. You're afraid of Russia. You're afraid of China. You're afraid of
Al Qaeda.
MAGA or Plot or Antifa. You're afraid. Do what we say. That's what we keep hearing. And the problem is,
And, I mean, 9/11 resulted in the largest expansion of NSA powers in the United States. Okay. And now all of our electronic communications, regardless of how it is done, is monitored and recorded.
Yeah.
Okay. There
We
are
still have secret FISA courts. We
And-
still have secret courts.
there are NSA server farms that are capable of housing zettabytes of information all across this country.
Zettabytes, bigger than a Googleplex. Numbers so large, they're stupid. Astronomers use these numbers. Hell, zettabytes. Astronomers don't even use these numbers. Computers are the only thing that use these numbers. That's it. They're too big.
Okay. We are talking literally acres upon acres of warehouses housing servers that have to have their own electrical generation systems, their own cooling systems, their own water supply systems, okay, that are dedicated just to keep these server farms running. That all they do is monitor and record every electronic communications happening in the United States.
But see, the problem goes back to the same thing we've had before, like we were talking about earlier. These are stories that are killed. It's not that this is new. This isn't new information. It's not new that the government is doing this. It's that people don't know. You're not being told. You have YouTube shoving down your throat the approved channel, which is CNN or The View. They're shoving this stuff down your throat saying, this is the only content you should be looking at. This is the only content you should be commenting on. These are the only news stories you should talk about or have any kind of conversation about. You're not supposed to talk about the other things. And if you do, you're the problem. And they try to convince you that you're going to be ostracized or that you're alone or that they can somehow punish you for daring to not obey. That's not America. That's Venezuela. That's North Korea. That's China. That's other third world nations. That's not America. Or at least not ideally what America is anyway. Are they doing this? Joanna has another question. Are they doing this in the name of Bitcoin, which is cryptocurrency? And
no, they're not.
No, but that's a whole other financial scheme that I don't feel is very credible, which has nothing to do with whether or not it's viable or if it's real or not. It's real. I don't think it's credible. But that's an entire show, and that goes into finances and numbers. And the one thing I can tell you for sure, Mike, you mentioned numbers to 95% of viewing audiences, and they all go to sleep. I mean, if you want to have some, I need to go to sleep, background noise, let me talk to you about the economy and give you numbers. I guarantee 95% of people would just be, it's funny.
Well, there was a few episodes back where, at least I think I remembered putting it up. There was a list of indicators that somebody might be a domestic terrorist.
You mean the one
And
that
on
was,
that list was a high regard for the Constitution of the United States.
it was targeting the Amish? Literally, I remember that list. It was about 6 months ago that we did this, 7 months ago, that we were talking about this, and they were targeting the Amish. Literally, if you read through the list, it's like these are the Amish people,
Right.
and they were a threat, national threat. Oh my God, these are dangerous people because they're religious, believe in America, believe in independence and independent freedom. Luddites, yeah, they didn't like them at all.
No. And again, on that was a strong regard for the Constitution.
Mhm.
Okay, and a vast knowledge of the Constitution. And they were claiming that we are a domestic terrorist. Okay, but the Constitution is what is actually supposed to be what defines our government. So if we hold the Constitution in high regard, wouldn't that mean we are actually supportive of government?
A government, not necessarily the government, not the government they have in
Right.
place or how they want to run the government, but a government, yes.
And I've actually had people claim that I'm anti-government. No, I'm not anti-government. I am pro-constitutional government.
Yeah.
Okay. And a government that is abiding by the Constitution. I'll give 100% support of. But the government that we have today is so far removed from the Constitution that I guarantee none of them have ever read it. Or if they've read it, they are reading it in order to find ways to perverse it.
Well, they're like AOC and Anna Presley, Cory Bush, Jamal Bowman, Hakeem Jeffries. What do they say? Oh, we need to replace it. We have a better idea. Mind you, there is no other form of government that has lasted as long other than empires. Other than absolute empires in the history of mankind, there is no other government that's lasted this long. No democracy has any form of representative democracy has lasted. There's never been higher levels of freedom in the world since America came to be and took and led the world. The quality of life has been increased because America and our belief in freedom and individuality. That these are facts. These are facts.
Well,
No other government has raised up since Alexander the Great. Maybe you want to go with Genghis Khan. Those are the last times that we saw the mass improvement of the quality of life of swaths of the planet. And then you have to go all the way until Industrial Revolution in America. Everything else is maybe your country does kind of a little better than everyone else, but the world didn't get better.
no. Okay. And there are a few epic errors where a culture or a country has expanded global knowledge. But that has been over the term of centuries, not a few decades. Okay. And if you really think about it, this country has been established under under the current Constitution for less than 24 decades.
We haven't made it 250 years.
No.
Not even 250 years.
No.
one of the youngest governments in the world, in the history of the
And
world.
even our independence hasn't even made 250 years. That doesn't happen until 2026. Okay. And the Constitution happened 13 years after we declared our independence.
Yeah. It's interesting when you put it into perspective. But again, these are the things you're not supposed to. This is why we don't teach civics in high school anymore, but they are teaching applications of CRT. There's a reason why they're doing it in this way. It's like what I said about equity. It's always about dividing, divide, divide, divide. Well, you can only divide people into categories. You can only dehumanize someone if they don't know that you're dehumanizing them. You can only break them into categories if they don't understand that they're in categories, that they're being treated as a non-human, that they have no rights. You don't realize that unless you have information to start with, unless you're educated
And
enough to know.
that's actually the whole reason for categorization of people is to dehumanize them.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's
And
correct.
Jan did bring up a very important thing. Today is Bill of Rights Day. Today is the day that the Bill of Rights was ratified by the states. Okay. And for those of you that don't know exactly what the Bill of Rights is, the Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments of the United States Constitution. Okay. And that is where we get our freedom of religion from. Actually, let me rephrase that. That is not where we get our freedom of religion from. It is where freedom of religion was protected against encroachments from the federal government.
It's where we codified it.
Okay. It is where freedom of press was protected against encroachments from the federal government. And freedom of assembly, freedom of redress of grievances, the freedom to keep and bear arms, the freedom of the right of denial of self-incrimination, the
Private
right to be
property.
secure in your property and possessions. Okay, and many other rights that are defined by the Bill of Rights, including the Ninth Amendment, which states that any rights not specifically included in the enumeration of rights under the Bill of Rights are still protected.
Yep.
Okay. Give me a second and I will actually read you what the Ninth Amendment says.
All right. That may also be a good jump point for the night. Can you?
What's that?
I said that might be a good jump point for the night.
Yes.
We get into it, folks. We get into it.
We do. We honestly do. Okay. So let me get down here to the Ninth Amendment.
Don't worry, folks. I'm trying to get Mike to talk through the pauses when he does his reading.
So here we go. I'm trying. I don't do well with multitasking. I get very focused on what I'm doing.
I get that.
I apologize for that. Okay. Ninth Amendment says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Okay. This was passed under the first Congress and ratified during the first Congress of the United States. So people that think that our rights are only limited to what's defined in the first 8 amendments of the United States Constitution? No, that's not true, because the Ninth Amendment clarifies that there are additional rights that are retained by the people. That means you, me, individuals retain these rights because they were instilled in us at birth.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
actually
always
at conception.
Yeah, they were always there. You don't need a government to tell you. You don't need an AOC or Kamala Harris or even a Trump. You don't need anyone to tell you. They're already there.
The pro-abortion argument tries to claim that nobody has any rights until after birth. No, you always have rights. Okay, from the time you are conceived, you have rights.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
The only
Okay.
time people
These
tell
aren't
you,
rights granted to you by man. These are rights granted to you by the Creator, regardless of what form of creation you believe in. Whether you believe the Big Bang created us all, or whether you believe in a higher authority created us all, i.e., God. Okay,
and
these are rights that were granted at that time.
Yeah. And this is why you have the progressives and socialists. They want to get rid of the Constitution, the amendments. They want to get rid of anything that recognizes your inherent humanity and inherent rights, so they can replace it with rights as delineated by government.
Well, they
Ideally
want to
controlled
replace
by
them with rights of universal health care and try to claim that health care is a right. No, health care is not a right.
Well, no,
Self care is a right. Health care is not a right.
Well, see, here's the thing. It's the bigger thing that they're doing there is government is giving it to you. You don't
Right.
inherently have it. It's what's being given to you. You have the right because government gave it to you. And if government can give it to you, government can take it from you because it's not yours. And this is why they want to get rid of the Constitution, why they want to get rid of the amendments or any reference to it, because they can't have power over something you inherently have. They can't take the knowledge from you. But they can prevent you from getting knowledge. They can prevent you from expressing yourself if they have the power. And that's why they want to get rid of the Constitution. Why they don't want, it's why kids don't get taught to read that. Why they don't get taught script anymore.
Right. And another thing, and that's one of the reasons why they don't go into the history of the framing of the Constitution, because they don't want people to understand that when the Constitution was being framed, there was a huge debate about including a Bill of Rights into the Constitution. Okay. And the reason why they decided not to include a Bill of Rights in the Constitution is because the rights were too numerous and they were afraid of missing rights. So that's why they never enumerated in the original Constitution, not the Bill of Rights, but the original Constitution as a whole, why they never addressed a Bill of Rights in the Constitution directly. It wasn't until there was several holdout states that said that they would only ratify the Constitution if there was a promise that a Bill of Rights would be added to it. Okay. And that was one of the fears of the framers, was that a future government would look at a Bill of Rights as authorization to violate rights that were not enshrined in that Bill of Rights. And we see that today.
That is exactly what they're trying to do. Yeah. Okay. We covered a lot.
We have. And as we try to do every episode, we try to educate the people, not just about what's going on in the world, but about what our constitutional foundation is. And that is our mission at the Liberty First Foundation. Okay. If you want to help support our mission, please become a member of the Liberty First Foundation. Okay. We are looking to get people to help us with our fight to reestablish the Constitution as the foundation of our country, which is what it was intended to be. It was supposed to be the foundation of our government. And yet, except today, we see our government has perverted the Constitution and in many cases have completely disregarded that Constitution. That was literally what legitimized our government. So if you wish to become a member of the Liberty First Foundation, I'll put the link up on the screen, and we would appreciate the help in order for us to be able to further communicate with additional people. One other thing that you can do is you can like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you do those things, it helps us with the algorithms on both YouTube and Facebook, where we go live every week. We are here every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay? Please invite your friends, invite others. The more people we get in here, the more we will start being exposed to other people.
Got to fight the algorithm.
The biggest way to get around shadow bans is by us sharing it, by us spreading the word. Okay? Yeah. They can slow us down, but they can't stop us. Not as long as we're united. Thank you, everybody. We will see you again next week.